Welcome back. Thank you for staying with KTN Prime. My guest is still with me, Dimas Kiprono, who is the Deputy Executive Director at ICJ Kenya, and Kennedy Kachwanya, Chairperson, Bloggers Association of Kenya. Now, Kennedy, before we went for that break, you made quite a very important point. The issue of Kenyans are jobless. Yeah. And right now, majority of Kenyans, especially those who are unemployed, are moving to the cyberspace. Yeah. Around 15 millions are users online.
Yes.
Do you know how much the percentage is of those who are using perhaps social media to make an income? And how will this affect them? Because you see, the government is forgetting that bit, that there's some people who actually depend on this.
Now there are many people depending, even students in university now depend on this very much to make a living, because unlike a long time ago when the help used to be there for almost everyone in university, now it's not there. So even students in university depend on that. So they can be the normal content creator, the people you call bloggers. They are the people who do academic writings. There are people who just use the space to do the influencing, the influencers. So you see what's happening with the TikTok and all that. So the percentage of people making money online, some in a more serious way, some on a more casual way, are so huge actually. When you look at that number is so high. But there's other issues that if you are an MP, you should think of. Like, for example, the payment system. So people who use like PayPal has a lot of problem because these people discriminate Kenyans or Africans generally. So those are issues that if you are an MP, you should be lobbying these companies or putting laws to ensure that Kenyans are never discriminated online, especially when making payment systems, such that you don't do some job and your money stuck out there because maybe you're being discriminated. Those are real issues affecting Kenyans who are trying to make money online. Yeah. But this communication issue is simply trying to prevent people from talking. And the bigger problem for us now, for example, the .ke domain that I talked about, the number of .ke domains registered compared to maybe South Africa or the likes of Morocco is so small. Now, if you are a government or you are a leader and you are trying to make it harder for people to use .ke domains, you are just making it harder because most Kenyans, what they will do is continue to use .com or, you know, there are those other domains which are residing in US and other places. Because now, why would I register for .ke, .co.ke or .ke domain if I have to again go to Communication Authority to get a license to use that, which I can go online and register .com and then use. You see the problem, and what we are making it, that we are making using a .ke domain harder. In other words, we are making doing business in Kenya harder in the process of saying we are doing something.
Harder than it already is.
We are doing nothing.
Okay, Dimas, coming to you, I mean, the timing of it is fishy.
Yes.
We are 1 year short to the election, you know, and then here we are seeing the government has been trying to sort of curb the dissent online. We're equally seeing youth nowadays going to social media to conduct civic education.
Yes.
What does this bill, if passed, do to our democratic space?
So the first thing such a law does, such a bill, is it creates a chilling effect on exercise of rights. So for example, if you know that your communication is being monitored, you are not able to speak freely. So it has a chilling effect on freedom of expression. And freedom of expression is one of those things that are the rights that are called instrumental rights. So the right to seek, receive, and impart information is a right that allows you to access other rights. So for example, if I am sick and there's a government program to address my particular sickness, if I don't know about it, I won't be able to claim it. Also, if I am afflicted by something, how will I let the government know or let policymakers know that I am being affected by something? And so it is a civic space issue that allows Kenyans to speak to each other, to connect, to organize, and to educate each other. So it is also part of public participation. And I do not think that online expression should be seen as a threat per se. because we know that the government, for example, we know that Cambridge Analytica was active in Kenya in our previous elections, and that is actually a debate that was being had in the US, for example, where they used your online activity, your data, to profile you and to either, if they want your vote or if they don't want your vote, they'll encourage you not to vote. They tell you that it's useless. Now they tell you that it won't change anything. Or if they want you to vote a certain way, they use your tribe and so on and so forth. That was done in Kenya. And that was done by a ruling government. So what makes it okay for politicians to organize and not okay for citizens to organize?
Okay. Sadly, it's a question we both can't answer. But coming to you, Kennedy, I mean, the cyberspace has extremes.
Yes.
I guess part of them coming up with the bill is to ensure that they curb on those extremes. So then how best can we address the cyberspace vulnerabilities, even as we try and maintain our freedom of expression?
This thing, it could have been addressed if everyone just had followed the law. For example, if you feel somebody is saying something which is not true, just follow, because our constitution outlines the whole thing of hate speech and defamation. So if, for example, I say something and you feel it's wrong and I'm wrong, then the law provides for you to, take me to court. Just follow the law. But because we are in a rush to punish people, to harass people, none of these cases have gone anywhere because we're in a rush. And then sometimes we're even going there and wondering which law do we charge this person with, because there's no law addressing that, especially when I'm saying something. Okay. And as I said earlier, most people fear what people are saying, not that it's wrong, but because they don't want it to come out in the public. And of course, if I'm wrong, just take me to court, let the due process take place, and then if I'm wrong in defamation case, then I'll be finalized. Okay. Yeah, so the whole problem has been because people are in a rush and want to harass. Actually, what they say, you want to teach people a lesson. And immediately you say you want to teach people a lesson, this is where we are heading. It's dictatorship.
But let me be the devil's advocate just for once. Here we are, we've been seeing how Kenyans online have been behaving. I mean, the pictures in caskets, it is disrespectful. And also there's the issue of pseudo accounts. There's the issue of VPNs. It might not be as easy as he says to sort of track down what happens in such a case where the state has to sort of tackle an issue, but there's so much around it that it makes it hard. I don't know if you're getting what I'm trying to say.
Law enforcement has never been easy. And that's why officers go to school and things like that. And we have qualified investigations and so on and so forth. What we are saying is that let's follow the constitutional ideals. The Constitution, first of all, if you look at Article 33, it says everyone has freedom of expression, right? Regardless of medium, you understand? Then it says freedom of expression does not extend to hate speech, propaganda for war, incitement to violence. And you realize these are things that are a public danger. And then at number 3, it says, while exercising this right, you respect the rights and reputations of others. So that is Article 33(3), which means that the Constitution says, yes, you have the right to speak, but when you're speaking, do not cause these public safety issues. Right? And then when you're speaking, now the third tier is respect others. And that is why our courts have interpreted that respect others allows you to be sued in a civil court. There is no value in freedom of expression without the right to shock and offend. Freedom of expression includes the right to offend. I can talk about my religion in a way that offends your religion also, or principles. And that is allowed in an open and democratic society. But now, how do we now legislate very specifically and very concisely to ensure that, for example, if you're now harassing a person online because of their tribe or their agenda or something, we have ways of coming for you and subjecting you to the law. We have the National Integration, the NCIC Act, which creates the offense of hate speech. It was legislated after post-election violence. Do you know how many people have been convicted under that law? Actually, there was one person, and it was overturned because
they keep on saying they don't have the powers.
You know,
the framework
the big
is
people
there.
say the baddest,
Okay.
but they go for these small people who have said.
Yes, finish your point.
Yeah. So let us legislate with intention and with the public safety at heart.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just have one question for you, Kennedy. Do you feel like we're going back to the dark days?
Yes and no. One thing that the 2010 Constitution did was to make our courts more progressive. So I still have faith in our courts.
Okay.
And one thing also I know with human beings is they always try the limits of everything. Okay. So even if we overturn this bill today, we still have to be ready for tomorrow. These people are not going to sleep until they get a loophole.
Okay.
So it's a fight that you can say, we are already here, we are going to go back on. Because every time there are people who want to take you back, so you have to fight to maintain where you are or go for, proceed forward. Okay.
The reason why I asked you that particular question is that Kenya, in its own right, is big in the tech world. I mean, we've been front runners, M-Pesa and the likes.
Yeah.
What does this do to the future of our cyberspace?
Yeah. So the reason why we are big on that is this freedom.
Yes.
You see, that freedom to experiment, to come up with the new things, is also enshrined on these rights. People don't see that, but being that you're able to go online or go anywhere and try to experiment, and Kenyans are allowed. That Tanzanians, for example, have just found out. Kenyans are very loud.
I don't think whether we are loud or not, we would still do it.
Yeah, but Kenyans are very loud. But the thing that helps us with that is our progressive constitution.
Okay.
So at this point, unless they amend the constitution, most of these things will come and we will still try to challenge them. And the good thing, and that's why I was saying, I feel that there is a hope in the fact that our courts are good. I mean, they are trying.
Okay.
Yeah. Although some of them have listened to them, they also have these issues with the social media, but they are trying.
All right.
But there are people who will always try to take us back on those dark days.
Okay. Yeah. Before we come to you, Dimas, let's just talk to Collins Otieno, who's calling from Kisumu. Good evening, Collins. What's your contribution?
Hello.
Hello, Collins. What's your contribution?
What I'm saying, let us look this in respect to security concern. First, if this thing is being regulated, we will be able to track or be in a position to prepare and respond to these cyber attacks.
Yes.
This is one of the cyber resilience strategies, like people are using AI-generated voices to demand ransom in line to abduction. If this system is ring-fenced, the culprit can be traced, tracked, and by the authorities relevant to curb this.
All right. Thank you, Collins Otieno from Kisumu, for your contribution. Coming to you, Dimas. I mean, he talked about the issue of security. For him, he's looking at it as perhaps a way of tackling cybersecurity.
Yes.
Respond to him.
So, for example, if you want to fight pickpocketing, you can't legislate that people should not have pockets. You understand? Yeah? If you want to legislate against hate speech, you cannot say that people should stop talking.
Yeah.
So, however you want to limit a right, you must limit it within a certain framework. And that's what we are saying, is that it should be necessary and proportionate, should protect data protection principles.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's talk about the economic impact. I know we've talked about jobs and everything, but what is the ripple effect in terms of economic impact? If it goes through, it's 50-50, right?
So if it goes through, I mean, the first of all, let us say that our domains we are not going to register that domain. So the growth of .ke domains is going to slant.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's now out there. So we can't compete with any other neighboring countries in terms of how many domains have been registered. So we will continue having outside domains.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two, obviously people will shy away, like what Demas was saying earlier, that it's a chilling effect like that. But the next thing is, I know this is the way e-commerce grew from Japan. It grew from the side that people are watching pornographic materials. That's how it grew. Most people pay for that. But I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, you don't want to come and look at what people are doing on their phone privately. Yeah, unless we're talking about kids here, right? Less people visit the site they want to visit. People look at whatever the content they want to look at and do the content they want to do, as long as it's not propaganda for war, it's not hate speech, yeah, which we have, talked about. But now in economic sense, as I said, the internet has other issues that our MPs should help us with, not the communication aspect. Like I was talking about the payment aspect, because...
But when you talk about the issue of tax, which
yes,
so many people have been avoiding, how do you help the government then? The
tax. But you see now, for example, I know the platform that cut tax from Kenyans, but it has never reflected here. We don't know where it's going. Yeah, you need to investigate. You're talking about tax, because the most aspect of how taxation would work in a country like Kenya, where most platforms are foreign, is for the foreign sites to deduct at the source, and then they submit them to the Kenyan authority. There are many platforms that at the moment deducting tax from Kenyans, but when you do KRA returns, it's not there. So you're wondering, why am I being deducted? So either somebody is eating in between, or you get my point. Yeah. But then also taxation needs to be proportional. Most of the people who are trying to use internet to make money, they make very little money. They are very people who mostly are looking for a job and say, this is where I can still, stay here as I look for a job. So most of the time, the money they are making is very little. Okay. So that's why most of the time we say, even if you are going to tax online space, then it has to be, as minimum as possible. Let these people grow. Once they have grown big, then they can pay more taxes.
Okay. Yeah. Dimas, let's talk about international obligations. I mean, Kenya is a signatory to various international human rights instruments.
Yes.
Would the passage of the bill place Kenya in violation of its international obligations, especially regarding freedom of expression?
Yes, the simple answer to this is that because the Kenyan Constitution was passed when it was passed, we had the opportunity to look at all systems that we felt could really take us where we wanted to go, where the citizen is the sovereign as opposed to the crown, for example. And so our law in itself imbues international law principles. However, Article 19 of the International Civil and Political Rights Convention and Article 19 of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights speak to freedom of expression and speak to how to limit it, and speaks to the legitimate aims, which are almost identical, but under international law, it speaks to the legitimate aims are public order, public health, national security, and national security. Those are the reasons. And then another layer is protection of children from exploitation. Yeah. And everyone agrees that children have to be protected online. But that being said, when you administer the test under Article 24, you find that the law misses on so many things. And the first one for me, the red flag about this law is that it declares that it does not affect any rights. Yeah. Which is patently false. Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody's lying.
You want to add to that?
No, I wanted to just say something that the previous question you asked about the economics.
Okay.
There is a case that our organization, filed against internet shutdown. And this was basically to ensure that there is no shutdown, which is also connected to the whole issue of the internet being there throughout. Yeah.
Okay. Let's just take another caller, Charles from Eldoret. Good evening. What's your contribution?
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Sam.
Yes.
I'm a student at Moore University.
Okay.
So my contribution to, I think, whatever is being tabled before the parliament, in regards to social media protection, what I think the government is trying to do, you see, like we have so many activists. Take for example, when during the financing process, you see, you found that many of the corporates and many of the activists and those who made pictures of the president were disappearing. So, assuming that this thing passes, and now it requires the social media users to upload their identification documents, the government will abuse its citizens, because in the past we've seen it happen, and if now they have the documentation, the identification, they are not going to stop doing it. Secondly, I think that this is just a move to target the weak group. Like you see, for example, the journalists for always calling out on the bad things, those who are always speaking actively against the government. So I don't think it's a good move, and I think we should not support it. Yes, this is my contribution. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Chance from Eldoret there. Dimas, he talked about a very critical issue, abuse of power, which we seem to be talking about in the recent days at a very high rate, that we're witnessing the abuse of power. From a law perspective, how do we cut that? I know Kennedy said he has, he has his trust on the courts, but still.
Yes, I think one thing that everyone should realize, especially people with political power, is that power is transient, number one. And number two is that the law was actually designed to be an umbrella for everyone. And we have seen it time and time again where you find someone weaponizing the law against someone else, and then soon after, or 5 years later, or something happens, they are out of power, and it is done to them. And we do not want that eye for an eye. Let us abide by the Constitution, which creates separation of power, which dictates that we live according to the rule of law and democratic values. And that is what we are trying to insist, that let us do everything with the national values and principles of governance under Article 10. Okay. Yeah.
Kennedy, a parting shot. We're out of time.
Yes. So I think this is something that it can easily be, sorted. But I will call Kenyans to really resist on this one. I say reject in total. And the reason is there's no clear thing that this bill is trying to help with. They talk about meter billing. What is they trying to help with there? If they want to help Kenyans, they should tell the ISP, if you promise me 10 GB of data, give me that 10 GB. That should be directly to the, not coming to get what I'm looking at on my phone or on my laptop. How does that affect ISP giving me quality service? It doesn't. It should directly tell ISP, if you promise Kenyans that you're going to give them this amount of data for this amount of Kenya shillings, then do it. And these are the ways. Okay. Do it.
And the way the bill proposes that ISPs aggregate data on the users. So first of all, the meter, and then now your details, and then your online activity. And it uses the words monitor. Monitor use and then report to Communications Authority, and then make it readable. This to me sounds like this is a private member's bill. Whoever is pushing this bill wants internet service providers to keep a file on everyone.
Yes.
And what is the file for?
So this is not the end of it.
You know, when they say readable, it's not just GB I've used. it's the content
Yeah.
I'm accessing. That's the point they are trying to make there readable. And you see, what has happened is, there are a lot of people who call me sometimes, Kachonya, who owns this, who ran this site, who ran this site? So that's what they are trying to look at. And they are targeting content creators. That's what I said earlier. It is what it is.
Okay.
So Kenyans should reject this bill as much as they can.
Okay, that's a really good place to end this conversation. Thank you, gentlemen. Dimas Kiprono, Deputy Executive Director at the International Commission of Jurists here in Kenya, also known as ICJ Kenya, and Kennedy Kachwanya, Chairperson, Bloggers Association of Kenya. Is it Bake? Is it Bake?
Bake.
Bake, okay. I do want to mispronounce my own things, but thank you so much for making time and, of course, for contributing to this discussion. I'm sure it will not end here. Let's see what the next few days have to bring. Well, that's how we wrap things up here on KTN Prime. Thank you so much for your viewership. Thank you for tuning in. I am Ashley Mazuri, your sign language interpreter was Marisha Witi. Good night.